everyone, welcome to my channel, and today we are going to discuss about Ionic. And Ionic is a framework. It's a one source base, can be maintained and managed by a single team, and you can implement either iOS, Android, as well as desktop, plus the web applications what we need to build. This is the Ionic framework page where you can look into various different components. I'll just go through very high level, very basic component structure, what they have it. From the documentation perspective, you can see how we can install the Ionic, and then what are the UI components and these native APIs. And these are the three different frameworks what we can use to build an app, either by using Angular, React, or Vue. And this is the CLI, which is very useful in terms of kickstart of the project as well as generation of some of the components what is required for the application. Either it could be a page, whether it is a route or it's a guard for to make sure that the application works as we expect, and it avoids a lot of overhead in terms of the development, where you can just give a bit of few commands and then you will have a required setup for you to code on. Well, let's get started. This particular video is a basic introduction of Ionic and a list of components, and I'll be talking a bit in terms of native and hybrid app approach and what is the big difference between them. And let's go ahead and discuss what is Ionic and why it is useful. So imagine as a user, you would like to build an app. So you want to build a iOS app, either whether it's for a company or it is for yourself. You might be interested in building an app which can be deployed in both iOS and Android platforms. So from the iOS perspective, we do have, we can build a iOS or Android native apps, which is different from the hybrid app. The entire video series which we are making here, I am going to build a hybrid app by using Ionic, and I'll be using Capacitor. So before getting into those topics, let me start talking about what is the major difference between an hybrid app and a native app. So when we build a hybrid app, we'll have a single source base and a single team who can work on both iOS and Android, as the development is very only one time, and that can be deployed into two different platforms, either to iOS or Android. If you look at from the documentation perspective, we have these UI components. These UI components, it is built in such a way by the Ionic team, where it renders depending on the platform. For example, if I go ahead and pull up a very simple, let's say I just want a simple component. So if you look at it from the iOS version point of view, it looks something like this, right? So this is how your mobile iOS devices, the notification looks like. And if I want to build the same component in Android, and this is a bit different from the Android look and feel. So Ionic is a wrapper. On top of it, the components is built based on the platform rendering view perspective. So once you build it by using this set of components with this set of code base, we do not have to implement two different apps, one implementation, and that can be deployed in both iOS and Android. This is a sample implementation what is being provided by the Angular team for these alerts. If you just use those set of standard components what Ionic provides, then it will be very easy for us to render those depending on the platform native look and feel. So that is one of the major difference what hybrid app development and why people look into the hybrid app. So once you build it, you can deploy it into both iOS and Android. And then we have another view, which is a native app. Native app is a very specific application built for iOS or for Android. It cannot be used for both, right? So you have to build for iOS, and then you have to build one more app for Android. But what is the difference? In iOS, you will be using Swift language for building an iOS app, and for Android, you will be using Kotlin, right? So that is the predominantly used language for building an Android apps, or you can go with the Java even. So from the performance significance point of view, performance native apps, it's quite faster because hybrid app uses something called web view. So this web view, the internal web view, is used to render the components. So this web view, it takes a bit of lag in terms of the UI render, but it is not a quite significant feedback to decide whether you want to go for hybrid or native. If you have any apart from the performance, if you have any native features, either could be push notifications, or either could be biometric logins, or either those can still be applicable for hybrid app as well. But if you are looking for an app which needs to access some of those device apps, to block those different apps from your app, as well as to integrate with the multiple applications, it's called a deep linking. And there could be so many plugins what we need to use in hybrid. It is not very straightforward in the hybrid app development. So that is the reason native features and native apps which is built specifically to access and use native features of the mobile, it is quite significant and straightforward development. But as I said, we need to have two different teams working on two different apps, and we need to have multi different skill set to maintain and manage the application. So this entire series we will be building an hybrid app, and then we'll be using Angular, which is one of the framework what Ionic supports. Apart from that, we'll be using Capacitor. I'll let me give a quick view of that. Okay, so from the native API perspective, we need to use Capacitor. This is the Capacitor. There are few plugins that can be used to access some native API features, like if you want to access a camera phone from your phone, or if you want to access, some of the biometric features, or if you want to access your contacts from the mobile phones, if you want to make a calls. There are so many different plugins what is being provided by Capacitor, and Cordova was initially built from the community perspective, which was quite straightforward and significant. It has so many different plugins, but still Capacitor come up with its own on top of Cordova. They come up with different features, which is quite predominantly useful as of today. So everyone is moving from Cordova to Capacitor. All right, so this is the main difference between Ionic and the other frameworks in terms of the app development, whether it is a native or a hybrid app. And then we have a complete documentation from the Ionic perspective. If you look at the documentation, it's very, very clear, and each and every step. And from the community perspective, it is quite predominantly major support towards Ionic, and people are now moving towards Flutter and so many other technologies for building an hybrid app, which might be a React native. Right, so I have built an app earlier before in my career, so I would like to continue to work on Ionic as well as Angular for now. And the upcoming videos, I would like to show you a simple demo application which we are building to list down kind of a to-do app, which we can make it and we can access some of the pictures to keep it in the store, as well as we'll be using a biometric for the login. Thank you for watching, and if you have any queries, comment below, and I'll be posting the new videos very soon. Thank you and have a nice day.